yeah, basically cleaning up before the people show up, or cleaning up after people left the church. But I couldn't serve in public because of my sexual orientation. So at that point, I was a bit disappointed because I figured, okay, I'm good enough to clean up, but I'm not good enough to work at the bookstore as I've been working, and I was even made a leader of the bookstore because of my dedication to the church and also to the to my job. I mean, I was very passionate about it because I always loved. I have always loved the church, and I just love my fellow human beings, as it is stated in the Bible that we are supposed to love each other. But I guess there are some denominations that is like you are supposed to love each other as long as you are not gay, and even in some of the in the gay community, I also found out that it was like, okay, it's okay to be gay, but you cannot belong to this or this other political association or party. So that's why, I mean, that's why I joined the local Republicans, because it's like I felt the acceptance of the other members, and they respected my political point of view, my religious point of view, and I've been serving in the executive board for about 2 years already, and I'm on my third year with them.
I'm actually the first registered Republican in my family. I come from a big government, big socialist Democrat family. My grandfather served in a couple of Democrat administrations in my home state. The family folklore is when my mother turned 18, the first election she was able to vote in was 1968. She comes home and my grandfather keeps badgering her about who'd she vote for, who'd you vote for, who'd you vote for, and she finally said Nixon, and he went over the edge and locked himself in the bathroom for 3 hours. Turns out she did not vote for Nixon, but she did it just to jab a little bit. I've always been a little different from everyone else in my family. Now I'm noticing that most of the people in my family, even if they don't admit it, they pretty much believe more in line with what I believe than they do another party. I think that it's important, as a Republican, I think it's important for ENDA because I believe in a level playing field. Not necessarily a level or equal outcome, but an equal opportunity. Let's open up that opportunity. Let's not put any barriers in front of people. Let's allow the people that you see every day in your churches, schools, places of business, an opportunity to show how they can excel.
One of the things that we keep fighting to an end is because as an organization, because we believe that everybody should have equal opportunity, and also we should all have the same rights as everybody else, regardless of your sexual orientation. That's why we have continued the fight, and we're going to continue to fight until we succeed. Same as we did with Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
I feel that most Republicans feel as I do, that the opportunity for excellence is deep within all of us. We believe that we are all able to do whatever we want to do. And I believe that most Republicans, whether they say so in public or not, we believe in the individual more than anything else.
I think that it's time to move to the 21st century, and as people say, get with the times, when it is acceptable to love one another regardless of your sexual orientation. And I was, like I said before, I was brought up in a very right-wing environment with my family, but but I could be, I could still, I feel that I can still believe to belong to the right, but also have, but open up my mind as far as social issues, and everybody should do that. Or just open up your minds to live with the times. Live with the times, because a few years from now, you're going to look back and say how ridiculous I was, not to believe, not to trust, or not to like allow these people to love each other. One of the things that I have valued growing up is in my upbringing is the value of family. We all know that Latinos were all about family, and we, as a society, have gained such an important role in politics, being a large percentage of the population of the U.S. So I value family, and one of the things that was founded in our family was religion. Being of a Christian upbringing, and not only I was also a PK, a preacher's kid, so I grew up in the church. I had so much. I grew up to love the church, what I did, and the people in the church. So being, I always thought that I had to like grow up, get married, have kids, live happily ever after, even though I knew who I was. It came to the point that I did get married, I had my kids, but that happily ever after didn't happen because I was not being true to who I am as a person. Even telling you the story right now, it feels so liberating. So I finally moved on from my marriage, and but I still continue to love the church, and I continue to go to church. So I went to one of the biggest. I used to go to one of the biggest churches here in San Diego, with national recognition, and we're talking about 7,000 people by now. They have grown up to be one of the largest churches actually in California, very recognized. So I volunteer as I used to, because that was instilled in me growing up. Help your fellow members, help your fellow brothers and sisters of the church. So I volunteered at the bookstore, and I became one of the leaders of the in that department. So we were running the bookstore, and up to the point that and I was happy that even though it was a volunteer work and it took a lot of my hours, but it made me feel complete that I was serving the church that I love so much, until someone that knew me from before outed me with one of the pastors. So I was called to church, and they told me that I couldn't serve the public anymore because of my sexual orientation. And up to that point, I thought love your fellow brother, or love your neighbor, love each other. And I guess it came down to love each other until, as long as you're not gay. And then at that point, they told me that I couldn't serve at the church anymore. It was devastating to me. I went through months and months of kind of like feeling. I was depressed basically, because the people that I love them so much, the people that I serve, the people that I dedicated so many hours of my time, they couldn't accept me for who I am, for who I was, and they told me that I could help at the church that I could still help the church. They didn't tell me you can't come here no more, but they said, okay, you can help at the church, cleaning up before the people show up, or after people leave the church. That's not love. When you tell someone that you have to hide who you are, that to me wasn't love. So I left the church, and it's like I missed it tremendously. I miss my church. I miss the people that I associated with. But I had to move on and probably find another venue that accepts me for who I am. And for my family, has come to terms at this point that but still, even though they're so right wing, um, they're okay with it. They're not okay with it as long as we don't talk about it. Basically, being homosexual is not talked in my family, but they're my family. I had to love them regardless. But the church, where you're supposed to go, that's your place of refuge, the place of where you go when you're feeling down, and to praise when you're happy. It's like they couldn't accept me for who I am. So I'm just looking for another church that would accept me for who I am, and it's like it was devastating. But I have learned to live with it by now, and I'll move on for now. I'll move on from that.
I was raised Catholic. I am a practicing Catholic. I have never had the. I've never had the. I've never had the obstacles that Joe has just shared. I've always been accepted. The one instance that I was put in a bad spot was a few years ago in 2008 during the whole Prop 8 controversy in California. Not controversy, the Prop 8 campaign. A certain bishop who has now been named Archbishop of San Francisco, I believe. I went to introduce myself, and the reaction was just odd by him, but he knew that I was an opponent of Proposition 8, and I introduced myself as a log cabin representative, and he knew what that meant. He wasn't completely in the dark about what log cabin was, and he regarded me in an odd situation. It took me aback a little bit because everyone in every parish that I've ever been involved has always been the epitome of Christian value. And we might not agree on certain things, but on balance, my faith has been a lot of what has sustained me when, like Joe says, you do find yourself depressed, you do find yourself in a spot where you think that you're not going to see any light, but you do turn to your faith for that refuge. And it heartened me to know that my church actually gave me that strength and the light at the end of the tunnel. And it saddens me to think that there are people that have to experience going to the people that you trust more than anything for that refuge, only to be pushed away. So I feel very, very saddened. But conversely, I know that there are people in all faiths that would be happy to welcome someone that knows and loves God to find a place. There is a place in the faith community for all of us.
Well, after experiencing that in the church, so I have been kind of like finding what I do miss the fellowship of the people, because there were like tons of people that I knew, and I'm still remain friends with a lot of them. I didn't disclose why I stopped working. Everybody like questioned me, how come you were like not working at the church anymore? But now it's like I have found, I still find my source. I mean, my spiritual. I meet my spiritual needs by just watching Christian TV sometimes. But I feel like I still miss the fellowship of other people. So I'm gonna start looking for a place where I can go in and gather with other people of the same faith that would accept me for who I am. But so far right now, it's some of the people that I know, preachers and stuff that come out on TV. I record those shows, and that's where I get my spiritual food, basically, to keep feeding my soul and my spiritual life.